What is up, YouTube? That's here today. I'm back bringing you guys the next part in the little series I've been doing where I show you guys the top 5 Pokemon for every type exclusive to the Series 13 VGC 2022 rules. Today we're going to be taking a look at the best dragon types in the game. Dragons are really strong, but they didn't really get any new additions in this format. I would say the biggest buff dragons got for the Series 13 format is the fact that you can use more than 2 restricteds, and a lot of the restricteds are dragon types. There's tons of cool dragon types, and I think personally this might be one of my favorite types to use for competitive Pokemon. Everyone likes dragons. They're super fast, they're super strong, they have some of the coolest Pokemon, and everyone has like a dragon type in their top 5 favorite Pokemon. So what would be the best dragon type? Before we get into that, think about leaving a comment, think about letting me know the next type you want to see me work on. This type was highly requested in the last video and the last couple videos before that as well, so we're finally getting to dragon types. I will take the type that gets the most amount of votes and I will make the next top 5 video featuring that type. So we have a ton of really cool type stuff. We have like fairy, we have like water, I think we have like grass, electric, fire, psychic, tons of really cool stuff. Let me know in the comments what type you want to see me cover in the next video, and let's start things off. Number 5, the 5th best dragon in Sword and Shield Series 13 VGC 2022 rules. It's going to be Eternatus. Now, I actually think Eternatus might end up being a lot higher on the list, but there's a few reasons why it's so low. I would say the remainder of the dragons on this list, the reason why they're going to be ranked so high is because they're amazing Dynamax options for their team. If we think about how the whole format's going to work, you're probably going to have your main Calyrex form, being that Shadow or Ice Rider. You're probably going to have, a Zacian and maybe even a Zenta, at least one of them. Probably like a support Pokemon like an Incin, maybe like a Redirection Mon or something, and then like maybe a Mon for like speed control, like a Whimsicott, Grimmsnarl or something like that, and then maybe like 1 to 2 Mons that are just bulky Mythicals with like that are just great max options. And so these are where a lot of the dragons are going to slot into teams. So you can think of most teams are going to be like Calyrex, Zacian, Zenta, Fake Out / Intimidate, Speed Control, and then like 2 bulky max options, one of them probably being a dragon that might have an additional use to cover up for a team-specific weakness. So the fact that Eternatus cannot max means it doesn't really fit in that same role as the remainder of the other dragons, but it does have a really good move against max Pokemon, and that is going to be the access to Dynamax Cannon, which deals double damage versus max Pokemon. Unfortunately, a lot of the Pokemon in this format are fairies. Like there's going to be Diancie, Zacians, Magearna. A lot of really good stuff for Eternatus to not hit with Dynamax Cannon, but there are things for it to hit with these other attacks. Meteor Beam's going to be great versus like Yveltals and Calyrex. Flamethrower good against Calyrex and Zacian. So Eternatus will see play. I think another really cool thing Eternatus does bring to the table is its access to the pressure ability. Pressure is going to be so premium in these formats. If you can make the game last 5 to 6 more turns than you probably would want it to, than most players want it to, you can start actively PP stalling your opponents. If you use your protects correctly, maybe use a little bit of like a Cosmic Power / Recover subset. Eternatus can be a really good mon, and the fact that it's a 130 base speed means it's going to be able to outspeed a lot of the meta. So I think Eternatus fits a nice niche. It's going to be a pretty cool Pokemon, and I think it's just a really solid mon. Again, it might end up being even higher on this list. It might end up being like a maybe 1 or 2 dragon. Like you could actually like splash an Eternatus into like most of your teams and do a really good job. Like if like maybe you don't want to use Zacian, but you don't want to get rolled over by Dynamax options, Eternatus could be a really cool mon to slot into that as like a pseudo Zacian that has a really good matchup versus things like Kyogre. That's one thing that like dragons are really good at. They usually have great matchups versus Kyogre and other weather setters. Eternatus obviously can struggle a little bit with Groudon, but the rest of the dragons are usually going to be okay against Groudon and stuff like that. So speaking about a dragon that's not great versus Groudon, but can be, but not really, we got number 4 on the list, and that's going to be my personal favorite legendary / restricted Pokemon. It's going to be Resharam. Resharam obviously is a bit of a mixed bag versus Groudon. Groudon's like its best friend and its worst enemy, because if they set a max Quake and they outspeed your Resharam, they're able to hit you for super effective stab damage and get a Spadef boost, which means your special attacker Resharam does less damage. On the other side, they set the Sun for your Resharam, which means if you can hit them with like a max flare or a blue flare, sun boosted stabbed with maybe an extra damage increasing item like a life orb or something, you can just OHKO that Groudon before it actually gets a chance to play the game. You can also go for like max Wormwood and stuff with the Resharam. I personally think that the two most common sets for Resharam are going to be things like Vests. Life Orb's always going to be strong. Scarf is what this set features, and I think it's an undervalued Scarf Mon. You can let it outspeed those base those Calyrex and Zacian speed tiered Mons if you use like Timid with a Choice Scarf. So I think Resharam's going to be a really, really fun Mon to use. It definitely fits that role of like a bulky Mon that can be slotted into most situations that can become a great max option. You're going to see with a lot of the dragons on this list, their unique secondary typings are going to help them really help them edge out like 90% of the other meta. Like for example, in this, like we're gonna be using like Resharam, we're gonna talk about a couple other bulky dragons on this form or on this list that are just gonna slot in and replace like the Rillabooms. They're gonna replace the Grimmsnarls. They're gonna replace the Incineroars on a lot of teams, just because they can swap in, soak damage, and then just repin things based off their sheer base stat total. And Resharam's a great example of how to do that. So hopefully people use Resharam. I think it's gonna be really good. Hopefully the ground weakness doesn't hold it back a little bit too much. And speaking about ground weaknesses, looks like we're having a bit of a ground weak day here. I think the third best one's actually going to be Zekrom. And you may be thinking like, Zekrom better than Resharam? That doesn't really make sense. Well, if we think about the format in general, Kyogre is going to be really big. Like how you manage Kyogre is going to be very important, and I think Zekrom is going to be pivotal in being able to switch in, pin Kyogres, while also being able to like fire off the max form wins to mitigate Calyrex Ice from sweeping teams. I think it's a really underrated Mon, but also you're starting to see like a lot of like tournament results roll in from like various people that are hosting tournaments, and there's a lot of people that are just throwing a Zekrom on their team. Like what a lot of teams have done, similar to what I talked about with Resharam, is like every single team that would have a spot for an Urshifu or just a bulky extra Mon that wasn't a restricted, they're just throwing a Zekrom in that slot because it just solves the Kyogre matchup. It can solve so many other matchups as well. This weakness policy Zekrom set is the same one I used at the Utah Regionals. It makes a great partner for Comfey. It's good inside of Trick Room, outside of Trick Room. I think most people are currently running Vested Zekrom, and that's the set that I used recently in one of my videos as well. Vested Zekrom, super good. He gets access to Airstream, can be built physical or special. Really underrated Mon, and it's good to see the Pokemon that I like actually doing well in this format. That's one of the things I actually really do like about this format, is the Pokemon that I'm a fan of using are usable. So it's a lot of fun to use, and I think Zekrom is, I think it's just an absolute pleasure to use this Pokemon in this format. Also, I will say before we get into the top 2, let me know your top 5 list of what you think the best dragons are in this format. Does your list completely go different than mine? Are any of these Pokemon even on your list? Let me know your list so we can actually compare notes, so we can make better lists in the future for future formats. It would really help me out if you guys left a comment. Let me know that, as well as the type you want to see me cover in the next video. So the second best one. This is gonna be hard. I also kind of wanted to say that I wanted to put this one kind of tied with Zekrom. Zekrom might end up being the second, it might end up even being the first, but I think the second best dragon is gonna be Dialga. We're continuing the weakness to ground types. You're starting to see why things like Groudon are so good in this format, why Max Quake's a pretty good move. Dialga's amazing. The thing that sets Dialga apart from things like Zekrom and Resharam is its access to Trick Room. It has really good defensive typing. It continues, similar to Zekrom, similar to Eternatus, to be an even better check to things like Kyogre, and similar against, other than all the other dragons, right? All these other dragons, the way you check them is through the use of Dragon Attack. So you use your big max dragon to check their big max dragon. Dialga's a steel dragon, so it doesn't actually have that same dragon weakness. So it's the dragon type that beats all dragon types. It can fight Zacians, it can fight Calyryxes, it can fight fairies because it has Steel Stab. It can go for Max Quake of its own. Through the use of like Max Quake and Max Steel Spike, being able to get defense boost and speed boost for its team, really good Mon. I think like Dialga Grim, it's always going to be usable, and I really think that's going to continue in this format. Dialga is one of those Pokemon that, if people want to go out of their way to build like really aggressive teams that feature a bunch of cool mythicals and restricted, a bunch of other stuff, they're just going to get taken. Out by people that want to go super standard like Grim Dialga stuff. And I think Dialga's going to be very good. You can slot Dialga into so many of your teams. It just solves your Trick Room matchup, and really fun Mon to use, and I would highly recommend you guys using a little bit of Dialga because it's going to be absolutely great. I would say in terms of like how just max Mons work, I would say Dialga is probably the best max Mon that we've featured so far on this list. Obviously, Eternatus can't max. Resharam's an okay max, but at like one Snarl, Resharam's turned off. Zekrom can be built physical or special when Intimidated's turned off. You put up screens. Zekrom has to have a policy proc. Zekrom requires a little bit more team building. Dialga, you just throw a Life Orb on this thing. This one was a weakness policy set that I was featuring with a Dusclops to policy proc it. But you can just throw a Life Orb on a Dialga, and it's just already built in, ready, good to go. Can one-shot so many things, and really, really good mon in my opinion. So there's one dragon type. There's one dragon type that's left. What do you guys think is going to be the best dragon? Let's take a look at the list so far. Before actually we get into it, let's give a shout out to the fandom's 6th best dragon. This was like completely unprompted. I think 6th best dragon might be something like maybe Kyurem White. I think it has too many weaknesses. Maybe something like Regidrago. You might even see some support dragons like Dragapult come in. Did I have Dragapult here? I don't think Ray's going to be that good. I think Only's Extra is a lot of fun. I think Noivern could also be a lot of fun because it gets Frisk, being able to scout the item, so it's a good Sash / I think it gets Tailwind in this game, so it's one of the few dragons that gets Tailwind. So those are a few options of Pokemon that barely slightly miss the cut. But the best dragon's gonna be Palkia. Let's take a look at the list so far. We have a Pokemon that's great versus Max Mons. We have a Pokemon that's a solid Max Mon with unique typing. We have a Pokemon that's a solid Max Mon with an even more unique typing, and I would say less common weaknesses. You know, Rock and stuff like that are pretty hard to deal with here. Also, like, these two are both really good checks to Zacian, which is why they're even on the list. Dagger's great. It's the same thing as the last two, very unique typing and Trick Room. Palkia, the most unique typing, probably the best typing in the game, being Water Dragon. Only two weaknesses are to Fairy and other dragons, and it gets Trick Room. So if you're ever going to build any sort of Trick Room team, which is going to be so good in this format, you want to pair whatever your normal Trick Room setter is with the Palkia, because the things that are against the Palkia probably aren't good against anything else that doesn't share Palkia's weaknesses, and the things that the other Trick Room setter, Palkia won't share their weaknesses and vice versa. So like, let's say you want to pair Palkia with like a Victini. Victini's going to be weak against like Dark, Ghost, Ground, Water, all those things. Palkia is not weak against those, and it actually resists most of those. So vice versa, they have to pick: do I want to check the Victini? Do I want to check the Palkia? Do I want to check the Porygon? Do I want to check the Dusclops? Do I want to check the Dialga? Right, the things that are good against so many of these aren't as good versus Palkia, and so Palkia is like almost a guaranteed Trick Room if you're playing it correctly. The only realistic way to stop it, I would say, would be Imprison. And even if you read the Imprison in the team preview and you know they're going to Imprison, just turn 1 Max and just pop them off with absolutely massive damage from your big Max Palkia. Very good mon. This current set right here has a leftovers with Telepathy, so you can pair it with like Landos and other Earthquake mons. But I do think that like a standard Life Orb pressure set is going to be really good. Similar to Dialga, similar to Eternatus. The fact that these dragons get pressure is going to be really good for them in the later stages of the games. You can switch in, mitigate a lot of damage, waste the VP on your opponents, and if you weave in your protects, weave in your switches correctly, you can actually make it so even if they have like a winning matchup against you with things like Behemoth Blades or, you know, Glacial Lances or even, you know, Precipice Blades and Water Spouts and stuff like that, you can make it so they run out of PP if you mitigate the damage correctly. And so even if they have the potential to do that damage, they can't because they don't have enough PP. So hopefully you guys like this list, guys. Think about leaving a like on the video if you haven't already, and think about leaving a comment. Let me know what type you want to see me feature next. I can't wait to finish off this series before Series 13 launches. Remember, the whole point of this series is to help you guys learn as much about the format as possible before the format actually starts. So when the format starts, everyone knows Pokemon to use. And if you don't know Pokemon to use, you guys can always go back and reference these videos, get a good idea of the popular Pokemon, why they're popular, what they beat, what they're good with, what they're good against, and how you can use them in your own game. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Peace out. I'll see you guys next time.